Time flies when you're having a good time, and I have clearly had a very good time with this bike because I can't believe it's been a year since I first got my Xpulse 210 long-termer. Now, in that time, I've done around 6,000 kilometers, which is not great, but such is the nature of my life where there's a lot of travel and a lot of other motorcycles involved. But I've had a good time with this motorcycle. I have done a lot of commuting with it, primarily commuting. We've done a little off-road riding a couple of times. I have gone out exploring outside the city more than just serious off-road, just to find nice places like this, which is something I really enjoy the Xpulse 210 for. And I've done a little bit of long-distance touring. And in all of that, I have gotten a lot of experience with this motorcycle, and that's what we're here to talk about today. What is the Xpulse 210 like to live with now that I've actually spent a year doing that? Let me start with the good. We've said this plenty of times in reviews already. It's easy to point out the good stuff in the reviews. That's what you notice immediately. This is a very comfortable, very characterful and likable motorcycle. The chassis is great. The suspension is wonderful. This side of a Himalayan 450, this is the best suspension that you can get in terms of just sheer plushness and ability to soak up all the nonsense that we have to ride over. The engine is something that I've really grown to like on this motorcycle. I was never a fan of the 200s air-cooled, oil-cooled engine. It was functional, but it didn't do much for me soul-wise, whereas this does. It is tractable, which is surprisingly so. This comes from the Charisma 210. There was a lot of concern about whether it would have a usable bottom end. It strangely does. It's not super torquey or anything, but it's usable. And Hero's done very short gearing for you to be able to extract that usability from the engine. So you can ride around in city, third gear, 15 kilometers an hour, and the bike just pulls you along. So for daily city commutes, that is very nice. But it's a lot more than just that. Mainly, this engine is quite smooth and it makes a lovely sound. So that sound is something that keeps you constantly entertained, and it's not just when you're accelerating, it's also got this beautifully crisp note when you downshift 2-3 times. It's a really nice note coming out of the exhaust, and it's a pretty decently smooth gearbox as well. It's all right on the highway. 90 to 100 is the upper limit of its sweet spot. You can hold about 110, at which point it's revving quite high, and top speed is around 130 where it hits the limiter in 6, much like the KTM 200 Duke used to. And this engine does remind me of the 200 Duke in its nature, in terms of its sound, its tractability, its short gearing, its revviness. It's a good partner for this motorcycle, but I can't shake the feeling that this would have been a much nicer bike if they had just given it the 250 from the Extreme 250. We finally rode that bike a couple of months ago, and that bike's comfortable sweet spot on the highway is 110 to 120, and that makes a crucial difference if you want to go touring. So I don't understand why Hero did a 210 when they already have a 200 air-cooled engine, which is still on sale. This should have been a 250. I assume it will become a 250 someday, and to me it will then have a lot more appeal. But even now, it is a nice engine, and a surprisingly nice one at that. The other aspect of the engine that's not bad, not great, is the fuel efficiency. I get around 27, 28 in the city. Granted, I ride fairly quickly. And on my highway touring, I've gotten about 33, 34. That's more or less what you see on the display, so you can trust that display reasonably. So the fuel gauge is also reasonably reliable, and you get an idea of how far you're going to go in terms of fuel. So it is not super fuel efficient, but it's more than usable enough, and the range is pretty decent as well. As far as touring goes, I appreciate a couple of things. This windscreen, I have never liked the look of. I like the look of the shorter windscreen on the standard Xpulse. We have the top version. But I will admit that it's functional. On the highway, it does a good job of keeping some wind buffeting off you. And in the city, in this mucky season, it really protects your jacket from a lot of filth coming up of other vehicles. I find that I have brown arms on my jacket after a long ride in the wet, but chest area is pretty clean. That's nice, less work when it comes to cleaning the jacket. I also appreciate this luggage rack. There are a lot of mounting points here, including here, 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 here. I mean, they're giving you lots of options for where you want to position your bag, and once you put a tail bag on the back, it sits in place. That is very nice. You can tell that this motorcycle has been put together and engineered by genuine off-road enthusiasts. There are small touches that you really appreciate, like the fact that the rear shock has a little mud flap shield. It's something you usually see in more expensive bikes, but they've done it here. They've given you this pull bar in the front, so when you're out off-roading with your buddies in really sticky, slushy stuff and you get stuck, someone can yank your bike out from here. That is a nice thing. These crash guards are neatly integrated into the motorcycle. On the 200, they were intrusive. They came in the way of putting a leg out. This one, less so. And another thing I appreciate is the side-mounted radiator for the liquid cooling. Now, this has some benefits, but also one major drawback. The benefit is that when you're in slush and the wheel flings filth back up, it doesn't go into the radiator that would be centrally mounted. It doesn't jam up the radiator, and that is good for off-road riding. The downside, and to me this is one of the most significant downsides I have had with living with this motorcycle, is that there's a lot of hot air thrown off the fan onto your left leg. And this happens in the city. And it's not warmth, it's actual heat. I wouldn't say it's unbearable, but it's definitely uncomfortable and you definitely notice it. I ride in full length boots all the time and I still feel that every day. It is something that annoys me and something that I would like to have seen improved. Perhaps when Hero does the next Xpulse, just duct that air out in a different direction using some bodywork, like what TVS does with the Apache RTX maybe, but something needs to be done about that because it's not pleasant. I have a fairly high tolerance of heat coming off motorcycles because I ride so many of them. But someone who just buys this as a commuter for general riding will find that off-putting. To me, that is one of the major downsides of this bike.
There's also the fact that the Xpulse 210 runs on tube tires, and when you get a puncture, it's going to be a pain to repair it. Then again, tubeless spoked rims are expensive things, and it is a little unreasonable to expect them on such a price-conscious motorcycle. But it would be nice to have the choice.
Moving on to other things with this motorcycle that are nice, that have a good side and a bad side, the TFT display. It's reasonably laid out, it's good to look at, and I love the fact that if you turn off the electronics, you put it in trail mode, which deactivates the rear ABS, or you put it in off-road mode, which deactivates the ABS completely. It remembers that and it keeps it in that setting every time you start the bike. That's a great thing. What I don't like about this display is it becomes completely blank when you're riding with overhead sun. It is one of the worst displays that I've experienced in that regard. Many displays kind of get blown out and you can't see them when there's direct overhead sun, but this one is just a blank screen. So that is something that can improve. And then there's the fact that the overall touch and feel of this motorcycle does feel more utilitarian than premium. It's in the smaller surfaces like the bracket for this handguard out here, the sort of bolts that are used all over. A lot of these fasteners have been catching corrosion. This bike, to be fair, gets used in quite a rugged way. It's just generally washed. I don't pressure wash it very often. And we live in an area with very high humidity in Mumbai. So yes, corrosion happens, but a little faster than I have noticed on other bikes in terms of these things. They're easily replaceable, but it's something I've seen. As for the headlight, it's okay. It's not great, just about all right. And if you do a lot of night riding, you will want some auxiliary lighting for what that's giving you. Then we have reliability. Now, many new products have a bad time with reliability when they first come out, and the Xpulse 210 also went through its phase of engine issues and things like that. Fortunately, our bike has never displayed any concerns with the engine, but with the electronics, it's been a little finicky. I have gotten a check engine light thrown up at me. I've lost count of how many times, easy 7-8 times. The light randomly starts to glow and it stays on. Sometimes it goes off after a few key cycles, sometimes it doesn't. We've sent it to the service center. They just say, oh sir, it's just an error code from a sensor, nothing is wrong with the bike, and they wipe it away. But it comes back. Funnily enough, today on our ride here this morning, the check engine light suddenly started glowing. The downside to this is it's a very boy who cried wolf situation. I now no longer get bothered by seeing the check engine light, but maybe someday something's actually going wrong and I'll ignore it because it has come on so many times. That's not a good thing. Hero needs to look into why that's happening so often. The final point on reliability is an issue we've had with other Hero products in the past. The switchgear doesn't seem to age very well, especially through a monsoon. This bike is not parked in the rain for the most part. I have sheltered parking, but I've noticed that the horn switch seems to work sometimes, doesn't seem to work sometimes. One of the indicators has failed on the back of the motorcycle as well. So these are small things that do happen. I've seen them in the past, they continue to happen. The good side is that Hero spare parts are very reasonably priced. As for service itself, an average service is around 2,200 to 2,500 rupees. Not bad for a premium motorcycle at all. The quality of the service experience could be better. I think Hero is making some really nice, appealing products these days, but that premium experience that goes with them is lacking. To their credit, they have recently announced that they've put out premium business as a separate vertical. They're going to focus on it more, and I hope they do that because these motorcycles are really very nice. They just need to give a better ownership and after-sales experience to customers. Hopefully that will change over time. So, final thoughts on the Xpulse 210 after living with it for a year. I really like what Hero has done here. In fact, come to think of it, this is my favorite adventure bike from 2025. Yes, there were faster, more capable versions that came out last year, but this is a simple, honest motorcycle that has charm and character. It has a few flaws as well, and it comes at a very appealing price point. It's 1.7 odd lakh rupees ex-showroom. Yes, the Apache RTX 310 starts at about 30,000 rupees more. And yes, that gives you a much more comprehensively premium and luxurious experience compared to this. This feels a lot more rugged and utilitarian than an Apache, but it functions in a different way as well. It is a more rugged motorcycle by far. It's definitely become more of an adventure bike than the previous Xpulse, and I understand why the hardcore off-road guys, the pro-amateur racer guys do prefer the older motorcycle. It's lighter and it's proven itself, whereas this has become more of an ADV. I think for the general public, for people who just want a comfortable, rugged motorcycle, one that looks quite nice, I think this looks better than the old Xpulse. And is a more appealing adventure bike. This does a better job than the old Xpulse. Not quite as good off-road perhaps because it's bigger, it's softer, it's heavier. There will be a Dakar version. Hero delays all of its products quite significantly. We saw that about a year ago almost at EICMA last year. It was supposed to launch early this year, nothing has happened. I assume it will come at some point, but that's just the way things are with Hero and their premium products right now. We see things and then we have to wait a really long time before they launch. But all that being said, this bike has treated me well. It's never failed on me. It's never had any significant mechanical issues, nothing like that. There have been niggles with it, but it's worked perfectly through that time. And I've enjoyed commuting on it. Would I personally want to buy one? Well, yeah, it comes kind of close. I do like it for what I use it for city riding and just generally exploring areas around Mumbai. But I know it can be a better motorcycle than it is, and that's what sort of puts me off. But for what it can do with that proper 21-inch, 18-inch wheel setup, the long travel suspension, and its fun to ride character, there's nothing really like it at this price point in the market. It is a unique motorcycle, and if you just want something that's more affordable than these big 300 to 500cc adventure bikes, this fits the boat. This does the job really well, and if you want one right now, it's affordable to buy, affordable to run, and most of all, it is entertaining to ride.